Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Mica.
All right, bad news if you don't like microtransactions, which is, well, that's a lot of people at this point, right? The concept of games as a service, aka GAS, aka games with loot boxes, multiple episodes, and lots of DLC designed to keep you hooked, has been on the upswing for a while now. And a new study says we should expect it to be the norm for the industry going forward. So have fun with that, because why? Well, it makes a ton of money.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
Yep, a new report says that the games as a service model has tripled the value of the digital games industry, as more gamers stick with the same games for longer periods of time and keep gobbling up those loot boxes and regular updates.
And this is a huge shift from an industry that used to treat games as more or less one-offs. You'd spend an upfront amount on, say, $60, and then you would play it, and then you would move on to the next thing. Nowadays, games are treated almost more like apps or like platforms to get as many people on them and staying on them as possible, because there you can sell them more stuff. And like it or not, more and more developers see this model, they see how much money it's making, and they're moving towards it.
Okay, so why is the games as a service model so popular in the first place?
Well, according to a new report from SuperData, it's because of the most obvious business reason. It's making lots of money.
Yay!
The industry today is valued at more than $96 billion. That's a lot of money, which should be very clear. That's not necessarily how much it makes in a year or anything. It's just the valuation. And the games as a service revenue model has tripled the industry's value, according to this study, which said game makers of all sizes earn from a steady stream of in-game content that both serves player expectations and increases their revenue per user.
And to translate a little bit of that technical mumbo jumbo, that means that developers aren't just selling players a game, but they're also selling them a bunch of in-game content once they've bought the game. So the publisher makes more and more money per customer. That includes everything from DLC to loot boxes to what have you. And they're apparently making developers and publishers a crap ton of money.
Now, in the past, microtransactions were mostly confined to free-to-play games. Famously in games like Candy Crush is a very well-known one, which is free, but you run out of lives, you can buy a few more, or if you don't feel like waiting on the cooldown timer, or in the League of Legends kinds of games of the world, they let you buy champions if you don't want to grind for them, or special skins.
But that has all changed now, and we're seeing them in full-price games too. They can range from games like Overwatch, whose loot boxes offer you solely cosmetic gear, to games like Shadow of War or NBA 2K18, whose loot boxes actually affect your character performance in-game, and every aspect down to player haircuts has been monetized.
And then all these little microtransactions, guess what? They're working. There are a lot of people who will call for boycotts and everything, but at the end of the day, they're making money. The study from SuperData notes that last year, a quarter of all digital revenue from PC games with an upfront cost came from additional content.
As the study put it, consumers are less willing to pay $60 for a boxed game and instead choose titles with a steady stream of new content. Publishers seek to meet those expectations and have adopted a games as a service model, releasing fewer titles over time while keeping players engaged longer with regular updates and add-ons.
And as a result of all that, the industry keeps growing. Remember the $96 billion quoted earlier? That's actually up 10% just from the previous year, which means that the gaming industry, unlike some other entertainment industries, Hollywood, is still growing at a really fast pace. I mean, that's a huge year-over-year percentage growth. And if this keeps going, the digital games industry market could reach more than $123 billion by 2020.
Wow. So basically this means that the industry is still experiencing a huge growth, and it's all being driven by microtransactions.
Gross.
So, or unsurprisingly, we're seeing other developers move in that direction too, because money.
It works. That's their businesses, not friends. Recently, Japanese RPG giant Square Enix said they want to move all their games into the games as a service direction, including their most popular franchises like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. Well, I mean, they kind of started it with Final Fantasy 15.
They did. During a recent earnings presentation, company officials called the games as a service model the future of gaming and indicate that all of their titles, even their tentpole releases, will shift towards that, and now all Keyblades will be in loot boxes.
No! The company said titles that have become global hits recently have tended to be offered via the games as a service model, and we believe this is going to be the mainstream model for gaming in the future. In developing future titles, we will approach game design with a mind to generate recurring revenue streams.
Hajime Tabata hinted at this direction for Final Fantasy 15 ages ago when he said, "I want it to be something that users can enjoy for years to come." So
Right.
Maybe that's why we've been getting more and more Final Fantasy 15 DLC, which
that's exactly why we've been getting more Final Fantasy 15 DLC.
At least it's story this time, though.
Right, and Final Fantasy 15 fans seem to be very happy to be getting that content.
I'm happy.
But it seems like in addition to Final Fantasy, we'll start to see games like Tomb Raider, future Marvel games, Kingdom Hearts. We're gonna get all the keyplates and loot boxes apparently.
Please no.
Any or all of these could be just appended to start becoming services rather than standalone games.
But it's not just Square Enix. In Ubisoft's recent earnings briefing, the studio said they too were going to be reducing the number of new releases at some point in the near future, relying more on live services for the games they do put out now.
But even the concept of games starts to be changing a little bit too. Like the concept of games is becoming a service, kind of like Netflix, not entirely, but we're starting to see baby steps in that direction, and considering the growth of expansions to DLC to microtransactions, I could see a lot more of this happening in the future, but we've already got Microsoft's Game Pass. You pay a monthly fee and you access more than 100 games, or PlayStation Now, which lets you stream hundreds of games for a subscription.
The games as a service model is apparently so profitable that even good old stick-in-the-mud, far-behind-the-times Nintendo, the industry traditionalist, is starting to get on board. They experimented with DLC in Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U, and now games like Breath of the Wild are getting seasons passes. A lot of what they release is free, like new fighters for ARMS and new levels for Splatoon 2.
I'm so excited for the new levels in Splatoon 2.
Yeah, but, you know, not all of it, like the aforementioned Breath of the Wild DLC.
Right, and that's not even bringing up the free-to-play card games like Hearthstone, which is rolling out more and more expansions every year, all of which cost real money if you want to keep up with the competition, and if you don't, then you probably kind of need to stop playing because you'll just lose. In a recent article, actually, PC Gamer asks if Hearthstone's gotten too expensive to keep up with. They're estimating that the cost of maintaining a full collection has increased from $550 a year to almost $1,000 per year just to keep up with that game.
Whoa!
That's like, it's Gus money. I mean,
jeez.
Like, he spends money on weird stuff.
Remember back in the day when games just cost $60?
I remember when they cost $50.
Oh goodness. But then again, if you look at this from the developer's point of view, game development costs continue to rise while the base price of a game has continued to just flatline.
Because no one wants to see the prices go up. So, yeah.
Yeah, so while nobody likes microtransactions, they're also probably keeping the price of games down. And if developers got rid of them tomorrow, that base price of a game would probably go up. So, do you want loot boxes or do you want a $95 video game?
You know, at this point, I don't like loot boxes in general. I would probably take the $95 game because it's upfront and I feel like it's honest, and I feel like I would then be getting the game. The trouble with the sort of loot boxes, microtransactions in general, is they tend to be shortcuts. It's just like, oh, if you don't want to spend the time, then you can do this. But there's always that sneaking suspicion in the back of your mind that they've made the game grindier, or they've made it harder, or they've made it a little bit more monotonous just to encourage you to spend that little bit more. And you never know for sure if they have or haven't. It's tricky.
And yet here we are all playing video games.
Yeah. Of course, there is a big drawback to this. Look, vocal players don't like microtransactions for the most part. They've gradually creeped into games. There's been this huge growing backlash from player bases online. The makers of Forza Motorsport 7 even recently backed down after fans complained that their loot boxes has gotten way too invasive.
And there have been similar complaints about Middle-earth: Shadow of War and the Battlefront 2 beta. It's gotten to the point that this week, the review aggregator OpenCritic said it will start adding information about a game's microtransactions in addition to its review score, in what it called taking a stand against loot boxes. It wasn't even just taking action.
A stand.
It's a stand.
So while the games as a service model might make a lot of money, there are a lot of people, and it seems to be an increasing number of people who do not like the model, and if microtransactions get worse, the developers run the risk of alienating their customers. But until that happens, guess what? They're gonna do it because it works and it's making them a lot of money. And these trends happen because publishers see results. If no one bought the microtransactions, they would explore other avenues.
The gaming industry being as big as it is these days is both a curse and a blessing in that regard.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we get these epic experiences that are made possible by budgeting for millions and millions of sales.
And ongoing monetization after the sales.
Right, but on the other hand, most of these millions of customers probably don't care much about whether they're affecting the industry trends because games are more pastime and less a lifestyle for them.
Right, so they're not listening to all of us being like, I refuse to buy these. They're going, that sounds cool, and they buy it. So for now, whether we like it or not, games as a service sounds like it's here to stay. It's the new normal. It'll be interesting to see how developers implement the model more and more as they keep trying to squeeze as much money as possible before gamers end up quitting out of frustration and move on to something else.
Or whether consumers steering clear of microtransaction-laden games becomes enough of a movement to affect publishers' bottom lines, and we see another pivot to alternative revenue models.
Oh, and then one more thing that we should probably mention from that study, just kind of interesting. It doesn't have to do with the microtransaction stuff so much, but it's quite interesting. It has to do with the age-old conflict between PC and console gamers. The Super Data report actually found that PC gamers are much more price savvy or stingy, or however you want to frame it, than their console players. PC gamers in the US typically hold off their game purchases for 21 days to take advantage of things like flash sales or bundle deals instead of paying full retail price for games.
And because of that, the average price of a premium PC game last year was $22.27 compared to the $49.41 on console. The study doesn't exactly define what it considers a premium game, so we don't know if they mean a AAA title or a popular indie game like Stardew Valley, but you know, that's a pretty big difference and does show how audiences differ.
Yeah, there is that big difference too in the cost of PC games, because you see, especially on platforms like Steam, the price ranges of games are like, you know, anywhere. It's like, here's a $20 game, here's a $60 game. That's gonna affect the average. Anyway, what do you guys think of this report that says games as a service is here to stay and it's the new normal? Bad sign for gaming? Do you care? Are you happy to let someone else pick up the tab so that the price of games doesn't go up? Let us know in the comments.
And for all of your gaming news, whether or not it has microtransactions within them, be sure to like this video, and if you are new around here, subscribe to the Know. We won't charge you for that. We don't have loot boxes.
Not yet. You can spend a couple more and then you get those lives. Or you don't feel like waiting. Wait, what? Ran out of lives? Can you run out of lives in Candy Crush? Oh.
I think that's supposed to say you can buy a few more.
Is it
I see.